So in this video, we'll be discussing about the front of the forearm. So when we look at the muscles of the front of the forearm, we have basically 8 muscles, that is 5 superficial and 3 deep. So sometimes we can consider the flexor digitorum superficialis as an intermediate layered muscle. So then we'll only have 4 superficial muscles, 1 muscle in the intermediate layer, that is the flexor digitorum superficialis, and 3 deep. But mostly this classification of 8, that is 5 superficial plus 3 deep, will suffice. We also have 2 arteries, that is radial and ulnar arteries, and 3 nerves, that is median, ulnar and radial nerves. Okay, so when we look at the muscles, we can see that all of these superficial muscles in the front of the forearm, they have a common flexor origin, that is from the medial epicondyle of the humerus. So it goes somewhat like this. This is the trochlea. So all of them take origin from the medial epicondyle of the humerus. All right, and they kind of extend downwards. As you can see here, the pronator teres, it forms the medial boundary of the cubital fossa. It extends onto the radius like this laterally and inserts onto the middle of the lateral aspect of the shaft of the radius. Okay, and then we have, when we go from lateral to medial side, we can see the first muscle is the pronator teres. Then we can see the flexor carpi radialis muscle. So it takes origin from the medial epicondyle, and then it inserts onto it goes onto the radial side as the name indicates, and it inserts onto the second and third metacarpals. Then we have the palmaris longus. We can identify it by the tendon here. Okay, so it takes origin from the medial epicondyle as well, and it inserts into the palmar aponeurosis and also the flexor retinaculum. Then we have the flexor digitorum superficialis muscle, and we can understand it through this. So it takes origin from the medial epicondyle and also the medial part of the coronoid process, the medial aspect, and also it takes origin from an anterior oblique line on the shaft of the radius. So here it forms a fibrous arch, okay, while it takes origin, and then it divides into the insertion, it divides into 4 tendons. Each tendon, it divides into 2 slips which insert onto either sides of the middle phalanges, so that they give way for the flexor digitorum longus tendons to go onto the distal phalanx. All right, and then finally we have the flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. It takes origin from the medial epicondyle and also a little bit of a medial posterior origin from the medial aspect of the olecranon process of the ulna, and then it inserts onto the pisiform bone. So this is about the superficial muscles in the flexor compartment. All right, and the nerve supply, when we talk about the nerve supply, all of them are supplied by the median nerve except for flexor carpi ulnaris. As the name suggests, it is supplied by the ulnar nerve. And actions, as the names indicate, pronator teres pronates the forearm. Flexor carpi radialis flexes, as the name indicates, and causes movement towards the radial side, that is abduction. Okay, similarly flexor carpi ulnaris flexes the forearm and also it flexes the hand and it causes movement towards the ulnar side, that is adduction. And palmaris longus, it flexes the wrist joint, and flexor digitorum superficialis, it flexes the middle phalanx of fingers. All right, so that is about the superficial muscles. So additional features, see the pronator teres, it comprises of a big humeral and a smaller ulnar head. It also takes origin from the medial aspect of the coronoid process of the ulna, and between the 2 heads the median nerve leaves the cubital fossa. And then you have the flexor carpi radialis muscle. It passes through a separate deep compartment of the flexor retinaculum. The palmaris longus, this is a vestigial muscle and its tendon can be used for transplantation. And that's it. Now when we talk about the deep muscles of the forearm, we can see that there are three deep muscles mainly. So they include the flexor digitorum profundus, flexor pollicis longus, and the pronator quadratus. Okay. So when we talk about their origins and insertions, the flexor digitorum profundus, so it takes origin from the upper 3/4 of the shaft, anterior end and medial surface of the shaft of ulna, and also the interosseous membrane, and also the medial surface of the olecranon and coronoid process of the ulna. You can remember it like this: the flexor digitorum profundus, it takes origin from upper 3/4 of the shaft of the ulna, okay, whereas the flexor pollicis longus, it takes origin from the upper 3/4 of the anterior surface of the shaft of the radius. Upper 3/4 of ulna, upper 3/4 of radius. And the pronator quadratus, it takes origin, it has an ulnar origin and a radial insertion. Okay, so it originates from the oblique ridge on the lower 1/4 of anterior surface of the shaft of ulna, and then the area medial to it. When we talk about the insertions, the flexor digitorum profundus, it forms 4 tendons for the medial 4 digits. Okay, and they enter the palm by passing deep to the flexor retinaculum in the ulnar bursa, and then they pass through the gaps in the tendons between the flexor digitorum superficialis and insert onto the base of the distal phalanx. Because it is a profundus muscle, it can go all the way to the distal phalanx. Flexor pollicis longus also inserts onto the palmar surface of the distal phalanx of the thumb. Pronator quadratus, as I said, the superficial fibers, they insert onto the lower 1/4 of the anterior surface and the anterior border of the radius, whereas the deep fibers into the triangular area above the ulnar notch. And when we talk about the nerve supply, we can understand that the flexor digitorum profundus, okay, the medial half is supplied by the ulnar nerve, and the lateral half, along with the other deep muscles, they are supplied by the anterior interosseous nerve. So you can see that the deep muscles, they are located anterior to the interosseous membrane, right? So they are supplied by the anterior interosseous nerve, and the functions are understandable. The flexor digitorum profundus, it flexes the distal phalanges after the flexor digitorum superficialis has flexed the middle phalanges, and it is a chief gripping muscle. And flexor pollicis longus flexes the distal phalanx of the thumb, and pronator quadratus, the superficial fibers, they pronate the forearm, whereas deep fibers, they just bind the lower ends of radius and ulna. All right. And then when we talk about the extra points, this is an important point. The anterior interosseous nerve and vessels, they descend on the anterior surface of the interosseous membrane between the FDP and the FPL. Okay. And also when we talk about the synovial sheaths of the flexor tendons, we can see that there is an ulnar bursa, a radial bursa, and also distal synovial sheaths. Okay. So the long flexor tendons, that is both the superficialis and the profundus, they are enclosed in a common synovial sheath while they pass deep to the flexor retinaculum. Okay, and this sheath, it has 2 layers, that is a parietal layer lining the walls of the carpal tunnel and a visceral layer that is closely applied to the tendons. Okay, so as you can see in this diagram here, it extends a little into the forearm as well, about 5 to 7.5 centimeters into the forearm, and the ulnar bursa is continuous with the distal synovial sheath of the little finger, whereas the radial bursa is continuous with the distal synovial sheath of the first finger of the thumb. Okay, and you also have the synovial sheath of the tendon of flexor pollicis longus. The sheath is separate, and the distal synovial sheaths, they enclose the flexor tendons in the fingers and line the fibrous flexor sheaths. So that's it about the muscles. Finally, we have to talk about the vincula longa and the brevia. They are synovial folds. They just connect the tendons to the phalanges. Okay, as you can see here, the FTS tendons, they divide into 2 slips, insert onto either side of the middle phalanges, paving way for the FDL tendons to pass through to the palmar surface of the distal phalanx. Alright, so now let us get on to the arteries of the front of the forearm. We basically have two arteries, that is the radial and the ulnar artery. So when we talk about the radial artery, it is a smaller terminal branch of the brachial artery in the cubital fossa. The ulnar artery is larger, okay? The ulnar artery is larger. So you can understand that by the rhyming itself. Okay, good. So what happens is this radial artery, always remember that whenever you talk about the radial artery, it has to go into the anatomical snuff box on the radial side. Alright, so what happens is it is a division of the brachial artery. It has a lateral convexity in the beginning, and then it leaves the forearm by entering the anatomical snuff box. Okay, good. So when we talk about the relations, so we on the radial side, the radial nerve, okay, the radial side is overlapped by the brachioradialis in its upper part, but in the lower part it is mainly subcutaneous, so it is just overlapped by the skin, superficial and deep fascia. Posteriorly, it is related to muscles attached to the anterior surface of the radius. So what are those muscles? We have the so we have the flexor pollicis longus muscle, upper 3/4 of the anterior surface of the shaft of radius. We also have the flexor digitorum superficialis, which takes origin from the anterior oblique line on the shaft of the radius. Alright, so those are our relations here. Okay, so those are our anterior relations. It is overlapped by the brachioradialis. Posteriorly, related to muscles attached to the anterior surface of the radius. And then medially, it is related to the pronator teres in the upper part, okay, and lateral and tendon of flexor carpi radialis in the lower part, that is medially, whereas laterally it is related to brachioradialis in its whole extent. Okay, and when we talk about the branches in the forearm, it gives off a radial recurrent artery just below the elbow. Okay, it runs upwards deep to the brachioradialis anastomosis with the radial collateral artery in front of the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Okay, and then it gives muscular branches to the lateral muscles of the forearm. It gives a palmar carpal branch which undergoes a cruciate anastomosis with the palmar carpal branch of the ulnar artery. Similarly, a dorsal carpal branch which anastomosis with the similar branch of the ulnar artery, and also a superficial palmar branch just before the radial artery leaves the forearm by winding backwards. And then we have the ulnar artery. So it is the larger terminal branch. As it is the larger terminal branch, okay, of the brachial artery, it gives off the common interosseous artery. Because it is larger, it gives off the common interosseous artery. So it runs obliquely downwards in the and medially in the upper 1/3 of the forearm, but in the lower part its course is vertical. So when we talk about the relations, anteriorly it is deep and covered by muscles arising from common flexor origin. Okay, it needs to be protected, so it is overlapped by these superficial muscles. And posteriorly it lies on the brachialis and on the floor of the flexor digitorum profundus. So medially it is related to the ulnar nerve and to the flexor carpi ulnaris. Laterally it is related to the flexor digitorum superficialis. Okay, so its branches include the common interosseous artery, which arises just below the radial tuberosity. Okay, it passes backwards to reach the upper border of the interosseous membrane and divides into anterior and posterior interosseous arteries. So the anterior interosseous artery is the deepest artery on the front of the forearm. It supplies the deep muscles in the forearm, anterior compartment of the forearm, except for the ulnar half of the flexor digitorum profundus. So it descends on the surface of the interosseous membrane between the flexor digitorum profundus and the pollicis longus, and anterior to it is the flexor digitorum superficialis. So this artery gives muscular branches to the deep muscles and nutrient branches to the radius and ulna and the median artery. And we have muscular branches as well, palmar and dorsal carpal branches, which take anastomosis with similar branches of the radial artery. When we get on to the nerves of the front of the forearm, we have first the median nerve. It is a main nerve of the front of the forearm. It is also called the laborer's nerve because it controls most of the muscular movements. So the course, what happens is it lies medial to the brachial artery, and then to enter the forearm, it passes between both heads of the pronator teres muscle. Okay, and then it enters the forearm to lie between the flexor digitorum superficialis and the flexor digitorum profundus. Okay, flexor digitorum between those two muscles, and then it reaches down to the region of the wrist where it is deep and lateral to the palmaris longus tendon. Okay, so if you can palpate your wrist in an extended position, you can see that just lateral to the central portion where the palmaris tendon is supposed to be present, you have a little bit of a gap. So that is, you can understand that the median nerve is lateral and deep to the palmaris tendon in that part. So relations. It enters the forearm by passing between two heads of the pronator teres, and then it passes beneath the fibrous arch of the flexor digitorum superficialis, runs deep to this muscle on the surface of the profundus, and it is accompanied by the median artery, which is a branch of the anterior interosseous artery. And then about 5 centimeters above the flexor retinaculum, it becomes superficial and lies between the tendons of flexor carpi radialis and flexor digitorum superficialis. It is overlapped by the tendon of the palmaris longus, and it enters the palm by passing deep to the flexor retinaculum through the carpal tunnel. Okay, it needs protection. This median nerve is the main nerve, right? So it needs protection, so it goes deep to the carpal tunnel. When we talk about the branches, it gives off muscular branches, as we've discussed. It gives off an anterior interosseous branch. It supplies the flexor pulsus longus, the lateral half of the flexor digitorum profundus, and the pronator quadratus. And we have a palmar cutaneous branch, which kind of passes superficial to the flexor retinaculum and supplies the skin over the thenar eminence in the central part of the arm. It also has vascular branches and articular branches. Finally, when we talk about the ulnar nerve, so it is also known as the musician's nerve because it controls the fine movements of the fingers. So it is not a content of the cubital fossa, and it is palpable behind the medial epicondyle. So whenever you hurt your medial epicondyle, you have a tingling sensation in the arm. Okay, so when what happens is this very nerve, it passes between the two heads of the flexor carpi ulnaris, just like the median nerve passed through the two heads of the pronator teres. So this ulnar nerve, it passes between the two heads of the flexor carpi ulnaris, and then it lies along the lateral border of the flexor carpi ulnaris in the forearm. So in the last phase, it courses superficial to the flexor retinaculum. It is covered by this volar carpal ligament. Okay. So its relations include it enters the forearm by passing two heads of the flexor carpi ulnaris. It runs on the medial part of the flexor digitorum profundus muscle in the forearm, and at the wrist, the ulnar neurovascular bundle lies between the flexor carpi ulnaris and the flexor digitorum profundus. So it has muscular branches to the flexor carpi ulnaris and medial half of the FDP, palmar cutaneous branch, which arises in the middle. You have a dorsal cutaneous branch, articular, and also articular branches. The dorsal cutaneous branch, it supplies the medial 2.5 digits. And finally, you have the radial nerve, which divides into its two terminal branches in the cubital fossa, just below the level of the lateral epicondyle. So the deep terminal branch, the posterior interosseous, the PIN, posterior interosseous nerve, soon enters the back of the forearm by passing through the supinator muscle, and it will be studied further. The superficial terminal branch, it runs down on the front of the forearm. It is closely related to the radial artery, only in the middle third of the forearm. and then in the upper one third it is widely separated from the artery. Lower one third it passes backwards under the tendon of the brachioradialis to reach the anatomical snuff box, from where it is distributed to the lateral half of the dorsum of the hand.